Hey everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. Today we are going to be talking about this book, Life Purpose Boot Camp, the 8-week breakthrough plan for creating a meaningful life. And we have Eric Mazel here, who is the author of this book. And this is created as part of his own life work, coaching creative folks and developing a very simple plan. And in 8 weeks, I think if you did this work, it would probably be equivalent to 8 to 10 type of coaching sessions that you could pay someone, or you can pay $14.95, I think it looks like, and get this book. So it's a great book. I think as a coach, I can say that it has a lot of the exercises that I think are the most important. So I wanted to, so welcome, Eric.
Hi, CJ. Great to be with you.
So I wanted to start talking about the biggest picture first. The biggest picture is, what is the purpose of life? Because we think about life purpose, our own individual life purpose, but what do you think the purpose of life is?
There is no purpose of life. It's that language that gets us into trouble. There are life purposes, there are life purpose choices that we make. I've been interested for a long time in the paradigm shift from seeking meaning or seeking life purpose to making meaning or making life purpose choices. People often spend a lot of their life running around looking for something, whether it's at the top of a mountain or at some guru's feet or in a religion or in a book or someplace, rather than staying put and understanding their own reality and making decisions about what their life purpose choices are for them.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm guilty of this same kind of running around, reading this book, reading that book, doing a series of exercises. And the interesting thing is that your life purpose is within you. I mean, you can run around and ask a guru what your life purpose is, or you can take a personality test and try to get a sense of your life purpose. But until you do the quiet contemplation of which this book takes you through, I think it's really hard to find out what the purpose of your life is unless you're willing to stop running around and
That's
going
exactly right. I
deep
think
side.
that stop running is really one of the most important steps. And then you have to kind of make a mess on the page, so to speak. You have to just get out on a piece of paper or however you do it your various life purpose possibilities, your various
Hmm.
life purpose choices, your values, your principles, the things that are important to you.
Right.
What you will discover, and the goal is not to find the one. It's again that language trap of the life purpose or the meaning of life. The goal is not to find one that supersedes all others or that sort of tops the list.
Right.
It's to create a menu of life purpose choices so that you know that the things that are important to you are, and then whatever that list is,
Right.
relationships, activism, creativity, whatever goes on that list for you, those are your life purpose choices.
Hmm.
It's actually comforting to know that you have multiple life purpose choices because
Yes.
then, if on a given day you can't live X, maybe you can't be in relationship with your loved one on that day because she's far away. Well, then you create, or then you be an activist, or then you do something else on your life purpose list or your meaning opportunity list,
Hmm.
and your day remains meaningful.
Hmm.
If you put all of your eggs in one life purpose basket or one meaning basket, that actually reduces your possibilities greatly.
It's funny, I've talked to quite a few people who have, this model that they channeled, and they said that and I've had them do readings, and they say your life purpose is to be a leader, or your life purpose is to be a change agent or a visionary, and it's funny because I have those two same effects. One is when they say your life purpose is to be a leader. I'm like, is that it? Like, how about all these other things that I do? And similarly, when they say your life purpose is to do these 5 things, I feel equally confused. And in some ways, I do think that when it's values oriented, those things are less title oriented. There are more things that you experience. You experience, you know, when I did your book, we're talking to Eric Mazel, and his book is Life Purpose Boot Camp, the 8-week breakthrough plan for creating a meaningful life. Then, when I did your first exercise, I came up, and it kind of surprised me because I went into a deep meditation. And when I did this, I hope I wrote it in the book, I came up with compassion, courage, compassion, love, faith, forgiveness. And those kind of resonate with my spiritual values. And what surprised me, though, is the ones that came up also when I went into this deep meditative state with courage, strength, and discipline, which I didn't realize that were values of mine, but they are values. And sometimes you may not be able to be compassionate. Sometimes I can't be compassionate, but I could be disciplined and have strength. So I think that that's to go back to your point, which is that sometimes having these values, which is a completely different way of looking at it. You know, one thing is someone telling you, an external person saying, take this test and like, oh, your job is to be like an artist, you know, or change agent. And the other is to look at the values and having them be broad enough, like you said, so that you can be those values at any point in time.
That's right. That's why I call what I teach value-based meaning making. It's about values. Meaning is, from my point of view, meaning is a psychological experience. That's what meaning is. It's not something out there. It's not something like a lost purse or lost earring, something to go find. It's a certain kind of psychological experience. Just like joy or anger, any other psychological experience, it's qualitatively different from other psychological experiences, but that's all it is.
Yeah, like
So,
happiness or joy or anything like
yeah,
that. It's an
but that's
experience.
that's great to know because that means you can cultivate it and, so to speak, make it. If you understand that it's merely a psychological experience,
Right.
that allows you to think through what things have provoked that experience in you previously, what's felt
Mm-hmm.
meaningful in life,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can create what I call a menu of meaning opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
things that have maybe worked in the past that you know to try the next time so that your day can feel meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
But another piece to that puzzle is that there's both inadvertent meaning and then there's the meaning we make.
Mm-hmm.
We can go out in an evening, look up at the night sky, and have an experience of meaning. But that's not value based meaning making. That's just one of our human capabilities of meaning coming to us in that moment, the universe feeling
Mm.
awesome or what have you. That's different from the meaning we actively make. And that's
Mm.
where the value based meaning comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It's also important, just as you said, let's say, I think you named maybe 8 values, but when people do those exercises, they often come up with 30 or 40 or 50 values because we value a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you do with a list like that in real life? Nothing. Really, a person can't make do with that kind of list of 50 values. It just becomes a list sitting there off to the side. So you have to translate the fact that you have all of those values into something simple to handle. And I think a useful life purpose statement is the following kind of thing, and that's do the next right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Something that simple. Right here meaning I'm going to pluck from my 163 values the value I want to manifest now because in these circumstances I want to be compassionate or disciplined or devoted,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the different words are.
Mm-hmm.
By having that vision of I'm continually doing the next right thing, you don't have to really remember, you don't have to look to your list of 50 values. You just have to get in the habit of knowing that I'm going to do the next right thing. I'm going to pluck
Mm-hmm.
something from this internal list. And whatever that is, once I get good at this, then I'm going to be engaged in this process of value based meaning making.
Yeah.
So something as simple as doing the next right thing serves a person as a life purpose statement better than paragraphs or sentences or lists.
Right.
We have to reduce our understanding of what we're doing to simpler things if we're going to actually hold them close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because I've gone through this several different times. Once in a corporation, where you come up with mission statements, like computer
Yes.
on every desktop, and those things are probably good in the sense that organizations have like maybe a directive purpose, but
Yep.
we're not an organization. We have a multitude of purposes. So those kinds of things, I think, and I think actually to give credit to those things, because I've actually gone through a similar kind of thing where I was like, I'm a change agent, I'm Pele, whatever. I had this huge long statement. It was like 3 sentences long.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, though, that was good because it told me what
Yes.
I was. But I think there is a point in your journey when you think about life purpose, which I do a lot because I'm a life coach and and I also care about life purpose, is that I think it's coming up with some more general things like do the right thing, because it's a combination of what I think you said is you're manifesting the right thing moment from moment. So you're taking that meaningful moment and the meaningful values and you're merging them together, which I think is so important. I have like 12 questions that people ask, so I want to loop back to the chat room. So the question is, so the list can change as you go, right? Because you come up with your list of 30 values. I would say my own personal experiences, my first list was 15 values, and I would say over the course of my last 15 years of working on this, the values, some have stayed the same and some have changed.
And this is important stuff. It's not just values changing. What's most important to you can change.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example. Let's say that today you decide that really your health is what's important to you. You really
Mm-hmm.
want to take care of your health.
Mm-hmm.
That tops your list of meaning, opportunities, and life purpose choices. And then you get a call from your son and you learn that he needs a kidney. Well, suddenly your own health recedes, and now you're going to have this operation to give him a kidney that obviously is going to jeopardize your own health. But now you have a reason to jeopardize your own health because you want to save your son's life.
Mm-hmm.
Your son's life is more important than your health in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then 17 weeks later, he says, I'm going to enlist and I want to fight in the war my country is fighting. And now, etc.
Right.
This is all circumstantial and contextual.
Yes.
It's not that you can't just have principles and values in a vacuum. All of these things interconnect, and that's why we have to maintain a certain kind of fluidity. And it's why I really believe in a morning meaning check-in or a morning life purpose check-in. It's
Right.
like 20 seconds or 30 seconds before your day starts, where you think through what life purposes or meaning opportunities you want to invest in or uphold on that day.
Mm-hmm.
It may be very different one day from another. Maybe one day it's your career, but then you notice that you're not doing so well in your relationship and you realize that you better reprioritize your life purpose choices and get relating back onto the top of the list,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Right. Yeah. So it is a moment by moment. And what I really liked about, which I think is unique about your book, Life Purpose Boot Camp, is that um, there is a shift that happens when you shift the frame, when you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, what meaningful thing I'm going to do today. It's a very intentional, purposeful
Yes.
way in which I'm going to go out and say, I'm going to go make meaning for myself, right? Versus what I hear a lot of clients that say, my life has no meaning.
That's
Well,
right.
well, who's in control here? It's you. You were controlling your intention and you can
Let,
make meaning,
yeah,
right?
let me piggyback on this thought, and that's that these are opportunities, not guarantees.
Yeah,
You
that's a
know,
good
you
point.
may you may try something with the hope of experiencing it as meaningful, and you may not get the experience of meaning. However, if it matches your life purposes, that's sufficient. Let me clarify. So let's say you're an activist and your job this week as part of your activism is to lick envelopes.
Hmm.
And that's not beneath your dignity. That's just the thing you need to do this week.
Right.
Well, you may spend 5 days licking envelopes and not have the experience of meaning one split second that whole week.
Hmm.
You may be bored to tears. However, you know that that's still your life purpose, or one of your life purposes is to stand up for that cause. And that's the mature position, is to understand, wow, I had a week that I did not experience as meaningful, and yet it completely matched my vision of life.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's why we have to have multiple meaning opportunities so that when we come home from licking envelopes, we find something that's actually going to give us an experience of joy or happiness or relaxation or something else, because the day isn't actually working for us. It's
Right.
working on the life purpose level, but it's not working on the meaning level.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I've had people, I was just talking to a young gal, and she said, I just didn't I'm going to quit my job. I hate, and this is very similar to what you hear by a lot of millennials. I had a crappy day. My boss sucks. I really hate it, and it's awful.
Yep.
And I said, okay, well, yeah, that's one day, and you're gonna have times, awful boss, someone who's disempowering you at work, not feeling like your job had meaning. Um, this is welcome to life. These are things that you're going
Well,
to
but
find all the
if
time.
you can't get the experience of meaning from your job, you may have to change your job.
Hmm.
It's different if you have a crappy day. We're both going to agree that whatever you choose, including your most meaningful pursuits, we were talking before we started about my work with creatives. If you work for 2 years on a novel, about 500 of those days will be crappy.
Hmm.
You'll be hating your book, you'll be hating the paragraph you just wrote, you'll be doubting that you have a chance in the marketplace, etc. But if essentially that's a meaningful pursuit, then those 500 days, so to speak, don't matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
However, if the thing itself isn't meaningful to you, if you're just helping the wheels of the universe spin, if you're just a hamster in a wheel, then you may have to stop doing what you're doing. By the way, as a parenthesis, I was the host on a Life Purpose boot camp video conference that I ran. And one of the things I learned from folks, and these are people who sort of have figured out their life purposes, so to speak, is that even after the meaning had drained out of the thing that they were doing in life, let's say it was college teaching, or one woman was a nun
Hmm.
who
Mm.
stopped believing,
Wow.
big stuff,
Yeah.
still took them 5 or 6 years to make a change.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Doesn't it make sense? But isn't that poignant that it takes us so long to make these big changes for obvious reasons? We
Hmm.
don't want to give a paycheck. The next thing we try isn't going to come with a guarantee. There are 15 or 30 or 50 big reasons why it's so hard to make the changes we need to make.
Right.
One of the things that I think we want to get firmly in our mind is the idea that maybe we want to make big changes a little more quickly rather than slowly. It's going to be
Mm.
scary. There's going to be risk involved. But if you have that tingle down your spine where you know you're going to make this change sometime anyway, you know this divorce is coming, or you know this belief system isn't holding, or you know this job is intolerable, you may want to take the risk sooner rather than later.
Mm.
Shorten those 5 or 6 years so you can get on with the next thing.
Okay, well, this brings up this is exact dilemma that this gal I was talking to had because she ultimately, ironically, wants to be a writer. And, she has a job right now that pays good money. And right now, she doesn't have a portfolio of writing. She doesn't have a lot of the things that make it scary to actually
It is
pursue
scary.
writing, right? So
Yes.
she has this one suboptimal job, which in my parlance, I call a transitional job, which it's a job where it's all about, and you probably use the same thing in coaching. It's a job where you make lots of money. You can actually do pretty well with a little bit of effort. Why? Because you want to, and you want to do good enough so that it doesn't drain you energetically. But this is kind of the sweet spot of this transitional job. So if this job that she's taking, the prime intention is for money, is draining her of energy, creative energy every day, and that purpose is to allow her to write, then maybe don't go forward. But I don't
Yeah.
know. What would you say?
The first thing I would say is you need to start writing now.
Mm-hmm.
You can't wait. We have to create in the middle of things. And if we put off the writing until times are better, we almost certainly won't write then either. If she's pressed to write, then she should be writing. And she should be writing first thing in the morning before her day job for three important reasons. One, she'd be regularly writing, which is a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. Two, she'd get to make use of her sleep thinking. We think while we sleep as well as dream. People don't quite realize all the thinking we do at night. Everybody knows about dreaming, they know about thinking much less. In REM sleep, we dream, and non REM sleep, we think. If you turn to your writing first thing in the morning, you get to make use of the thinking you've been doing all night long, and you can have the experience of taking dictation, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
because your characters have been speaking to themselves, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that's its own important reason. The third is the most important, and that's what we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that is if you start your day writing, if you start from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., whether you want to get up or not, if you write then, then you have the experience of having made some meaning on that day already.
Hmm.
And the rest of the day can be half meaningless and you won't get depressed.
Ah, that's a huge one. That is the big aha, isn't it? Because
That's the big aha.
yeah, I've done the meaningful thing that I'm doing a stupid job for anyways, which is I did the meaningful thing, which is
It
writing.
completely changes your perspective on the job. Doesn't make it super wonderful, but it makes it more bearable.
Okay, I want to go back to some of the questions that were asked by the listeners. So, how do we know when something is the right path? And I think I heard you say, yeah, it's, you
To
know,
guess.
it's a guess. You're going to go, I mean, I would say
These
they,
are choices, not guarantees. These are our best guesses.
yeah.
And we want to give them a shot, which means that, let's say you're trying something as arduous as writing a novel.
Hmm.
You can't stop after 6,000 words and say, I'm not talented. That's not fair. You have to give these new choices a shot. There's no principle as to when you then stop them. Oh, I've done enough. This isn't working.
Right.
There can't be a principle or a rule, but if there is a principle, it's got to be give the next thing a decent shot. But there are no guarantees here.
Mm-hmm.
People say they want to take risks, they just don't want them to feel risky.
Yes, that's true. We don't want them to feel risky.
Intellectually, everybody will say, sure, I understand about taking risks. There's no life without risks. We just don't want them to feel risky.
Yeah, good point. But they are going to feel risky. I mean, if it's risky, you can't expect to have the positive aspects of risk and not have it feel like
That's right.
anything.
And for my creatives, for instance, you can minimize risk, but in bad ways. Let's say you learn how to paint a pumpkin.
Hmm.
Okay. You can minimize risk and reduce your anxiety by painting 10,000 consecutive pumpkins because you know how to paint one.
Hmm.
But then there's no growth. You won't be happy. You
Yep.
probably will not be experiencing your painting career as meaningful. You may, in fact, make money because now you're the best pumpkin painter around.
Exactly. But you
But
will, yeah.
making money is not the thing that provides us with meaning. It provides us with a roof, which is not irrelevant. Doesn't provide us with meaning, though. And so the attempt to reduce risk and reduce anxiety by repeating ourselves or doing safe things or doing X, Y, and Z won't ultimately work.
Mm. You know what it's what I love about your approach because we had talked earlier and you said you were a scientist. It feels like what a scientist would say, right? When you have a hypothesis, you go out and you test it.
It's
You may
exactly
have
right.
like 500 experiments that fail. And a scientist doesn't say, well, I'm not going to do another experiment then. You know, the whole idea is experiment is the root of the word, right? That's the key aspect of the word. So you can't expect to
That's right. I
experiment.
believe, if I remember correctly, I may have gotten this wrong, that tungsten was the 10,000th thing that Edison tried as a filament for a light bulb.
Wow. Exactly, right? And it may be 10,000, verses, lines, 10,000 mornings that I have to wake up before
Yeah,
I
and
get
that's
there.
easy to say, but it's hard to tolerate.
I know.
Hard to tolerate. That's why I'm going to come back to, that's why we need a menu of meaning opportunities so that we
Hmm.
have multiple things, so that we have something else. If this is a sloggy day on the novel, we need to know that a walk in nature is going to matter to us, is going to help,
Right,
or that a shower is going to help, or that popcorn is going to help, or whatever. We need the whole picture
right,
to take care of the real life difficulties of trying to live a meaningful life.
right. Because if you actually define meaning as whether my book succeeds or not, it's a very limited scope and it's not going to feel that way every single moment. So almost you set yourself up for
Yeah,
failure from the big
that's right.
get-go. Yeah?
That's right. Let me just say, parenthetically, in my vision, we only need as much meaning as we need.
Mm-hmm.
It's another misunderstanding to think that life should feel meaningful all the time, any more that it should feel joyful all the time or anything all the time. Life's made up of different kinds of moments.
Mm-hmm.
What that means to me is that you can decide that you're going to spend the next hour in what I call meaning neutral, where you don't pester yourself about the meaningfulness of life. If you if you know you're stuck in the commute or you're licking envelopes or whatever it is, that's not the moment to pester yourself about the meaningfulness of life. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think life is going to feel super meaningful. then. But you can say to yourself, I'm going to have 9 periods of meaning today. Or I'm going to make as soon as I get to work, I'm going to make a meaning investment in X. Or later in the day, I'm going to seize the following meaning opportunity. That is, you can negotiate your day around meaning opportunities and periods of meaning neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
And by that way, you can deal better with those portions of the day that just aren't experienced as meaningful.
Yeah, I actually have a slightly different twist on that, which is that because when I did your exercise and I thought, what am I going to do that's meaningful today? Every single aspect of my day felt meaningful.
Well, you're lucky then.
No, no, I'm not trying to be, I'm not kind of like every single day sounded meaningful. I'm not trying to be like that, like I'm so great. But no, what I'm saying is that, so like in the morning, I wake up and I work out. And I think, well, that could translate into a meaningless activity or it could be a meaningful activity. And it's really just about my mindset. What is the meaning that working out has? Well, it makes sure that I have health, or I make breakfast for my son. That could be a really meaningless activity, or because this could be like, this is
I
how I
agree
give
with you.
nurturance. So that's the only thing I'd say that's slightly different. Even driving in the
The
car as a,
reframing really does help. But I think both approaches work simultaneously, namely to make up your mind that you're going to try to experience everything as meaningful and that you're going to think thoughts that serve you so that the next thing is experienced as meaningful. All of that is great. However, if there is some portion of the day that you just can't get your brain to turn into a meaningful activity,
yeah.
that's not the moment to pester yourself about the meaningfulness of life. To use language that I sometimes use, we want meaning to trump mood. Rather than always checking in about what mood we're in, it's more important that we check in about, am I trying to live a meaningful life? Am I making meaning now?
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a quick example. In the days before D-Day, we don't care what mood Eisenhower is in.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care if he's anxious, depressed, what have you. We want him to get his work done. We want the invasion to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we want to live our life that way and almost act as if we have our D-Days and invasions to live. That life is that important to us.
Right. Yeah.
We and our efforts matter.
Yeah.
And if we believe that we and our efforts matter, then we should be more interested in making those efforts matter than checking in about what mood we're in.
Okay, I'm going to put a little smiley face on this. So this is a smiley face warning. And that is, I agree with that. And I would say some of the hardest times where I'm like, this part of my life sucks right now. I'm having a hard time. I'm, feeling crappy. I'm arguing with, whatever it may be. It's a suckish moment in my life. And, when I actually go back to all those moments, I can actually see those at pivot points where it
Yep.
sucks. It feels awful,
Yep.
but there is a learning that I learn at the end. No, you have to be intentional. I could just go down spiraling into this is a suckish moment and then go into
Yes.
a whirlpool of crap. But what I do is instead of I'm like, this is a suckish moment. There's something I'm supposed to learn here. So I think that there's a balance, not to put a
No, that's
smiley
right.
face on everything.
No, but that's right. But I wouldn't say this is a but. This is maybe just circling around to a similar point said differently. I think when we do the work of creating our menu of meaning opportunities, we do want to look back at our life and think through what we actually experienced as meaningful as opposed to what we
Mm,
supposed felt meaningful. We may discover that the 7 years we spent on our PhD was completely meaningless, looking back on it, but
are you
holding our
speaking from
child.
personal experience, maybe?
No, I mean, this is really what people
Yeah,
often
no. Yeah.
experience, the dissertation process, blah, blah, blah. But that holding our child's hand crossing the street was actually completely meaningful.
Hmm.
Or having a conversation with our crazy Aunt Rose about the family was completely meaningful because she had all the family secrets, or things that, when we look back upon them, surprise us by the power of their meaningfulness. What that means is that gives us the opportunity to think through prospectively what things ought to go on our menu of meaning
Hmm.
opportunities. We need more holding our child hand and conversations with our Aunt Rose than maybe ego-driven PhD opportunities.
Hmm.
We need the things that actually provoke the psychological experience of meaning. That's what we need in life.
Yeah.
That's why that activity of looking back is so important. really sort of feeling through what we actually experienced as meaningful in life gives us the chance to replicate those experiences.
Yeah, I actually have a sad story that explains that perfectly. And that I was rushing around and I was working at Microsoft, and when we were launching Office, which was this brand new product that we never had before, and I was working my tail off and I was putting together one sales material after another. I was just cranking out all this work, and I delayed seeing my dad several times, several times. Finally, I decided to book
Mm-hmm.
appointment to see my dad, and it was a time when my husband was going to meet my father and ask for my hand in marriage. And none of that happened because basically I prioritized all those things that felt so meaningful, right? Like this is the first launch of Office.
Yep,
It's I care
exactly.
so. In the end, I mean, I had to learn this the hard way. That I thought, I would like, I care like in the scheme of things. I wish I'd seen my dad more than I would have.
That's
I
right.
really don't care about any of those things. And so it was that really hard moment of looking at that and going, yeah, the
Yep.
most meaningful thing is family. For me. Now, there's going to be another set of things for other people, but
And even the phrase most meaningful, there's a little trappiness in there,
okay.
because I think many things are meaningful and have their place. And there's no reason why one can't rank order life purposes or rank order meaning opportunities, but it's a little trappy to rank order them because contextually things change.
Mm-hmm.
And on a given day, your novel may be, in a certain sense, more important than your daughter who's 6,000 miles away and whom you're not communicating with on that day.
Right.
Or they're just different, but
Yeah.
that it's just a little,
No,
the
no, that why
phrase
you
most meaningful just struck me as a little trap.
You know why you picked that up? Because you're a coach, and I am actually trapping. I'm in that little trap right now where I've been in this mode as a mom and younger kids,
Mhm.
and I haven't shifted yet to
That's
they're
right.
older, they don't need me. So
That's
while
right.
that family first idea was like that's lovely and that was contextual and purposeful during that phase of my life and
Exactly.
their life, it isn't anymore. And so why you heard that is because I am trappy. I'm trapping myself. All right, I want to go back to some of the other questions that were on here. Um, so why doesn't she book self time to write and keep her job? Okay, got it. So I think we were talking about the
Yeah.
gal who's like, doesn't write or she wants to write. I think your three ideas were great, but oftentimes people, and this is really hard, you want to write, and then actually the fear of writing comes in and you don't write because you come up with all these excuses why you can't write, right? It's almost like you know what the purposeful thing is, and then you hit a fear point and you can't,
Right.
right? What advice do you give to folks that kind of hit that point? They know sort of in the deep recesses of their mind that they need to write or they want to write. That's their purpose, but they don't do it.
I have a lot of different things to say. I mean, the shorthand is you have to show up. So that's the shorthand.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like to say is Pavarotti has a quote I like, which is people say I'm disciplined, and it's not discipline, it's devotion, and there's a big difference.
Hmm.
And there is a big difference. I would say to someone who isn't writing, who maybe is laying it on the floor of discipline or I'm not disciplined or what have you, I would return it to devotion. You need to fall in love with your own writing. And all the cognates of love, enthusiasm, interest, curiosity, passion, all the words that are in the same family. A lot of people are not actually interested in their own writing, curious about their own writing, passionate about their own writing. They're holding as a kind of should. I would like to be a writer. I'd like to have written. I'd like to have the book written or done, but I'm not actually that interested in writing it. Well, some flame has to get rekindled there where a
Hmm.
person's actually passionate about the work. You can't white knuckle through discipline a 3-year novel. Can't be
Hmm.
done.
Right.
Can't write it through discipline. You have to write it because you're actually interested in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, as I say, there are many things to say to a person in that position. I'm just pulling one out about
Yeah,
discipline
show
of
show up
devotion.
if yeah, it's if I think of devotion as a word that you use towards devotion is a thing that you do, you love. I think of it in a religious way. You go and you
Exactly.
send a devotion because you love it, you want to cherish it, you want to nurture this thing, you care about it.
And another
Discipline
important,
is like this gutting
exactly,
through.
another important word is practice, the idea of maintaining a practice.
Hmm.
Everybody understands it with respect to whatever yoga, exercise,
Hmm.
diet, whatever. They don't understand it so well when it comes to their own creativity.
Mm.
Tchaikovsky said, I'm inspired every fifth day, but I only get that fifth day if I show up the other 4 days.
I love that.
And that's exactly right. I'm for
Yeah.
inspiration, but
Yeah.
you're not entitled to it. You won't get inspiration if you're not showing up.
Mm. Mm. You know, it's funny because I've talked to some writers who are like, if you don't find inspiration, it's because it's not about, forcing yourself to write each time. It's about like a momentous thing. If you're not feeling it, it means that you need to take a rest and just kind of, take it's your
I
body
don't know.
talking to you.
I don't argue with anyone. I just don't agree.
Okay.
I wouldn't try to arm wrestle you out of that belief system. For me, it's always the proof is in the pudding. If you're writing your 14 novels that way, more power to you.
Right.
But if you're saying that and not writing, then I don't believe you.
Ah, that's a really good point, right? Is it just a justification? Or is in fact, but if you find like this is in this gal, she's written quite a few novels and this is her process. So this is
Yeah,
her process.
absolutely. Then I have no quarrel.
Yeah. Okay, so the last question, we have 2 more minutes. Where does gratitude come in?
I'm not exactly sure, what where the question is coming from.
I
If it's one of your important values or principles in life, then it gets embedded in the do the next right thing kind of thinking or in your
Mhm.
value-based meaning making.
Mhm.
And maybe oh boy, this is going to take almost a full minute to say, but let's say that you believe in the following thing, and that is the creation of a life purpose icon. In the book, I talk about creating your own visual representation of your life purpose, just the
Mhm.
way the kind of work that a cross does for a Christian or a Star of David does for a Jew. You can create your own life purpose icon so that you're holding your life purposes close in the same way that a cross does that work.
Mhm.
So if gratitude is an important life purpose choice for you, then you could create a life purpose icon that somehow represents gratitude to you so that you're continually reminded that that's the value you want to lead with. Let me
Mhm.
just put a period there because I could go all over
Yeah,
the
yeah,
top.
no, I get it. And I think probably my 2 second answer to that is that sometimes it's, these things are crappy things. I don't like. I'm assuming what this person meant, and I don't know what they meant, is that
Mhm.
this is kind of a crappy experience. I don't like it, but I'm still going to be grateful. I still have a gratitude practice, and it's about kind of shifting your energy to a place of gratitude and love. That's what I
Yeah.
think is
Now,
what they
if
meant.
if that's what the question was, and we don't know what it was,
Yeah.
I would dispute that a little with if that were my client, I would say that the gratitude practice that you're kind of reifying a principle there about gratitude
Mm.
rather than remaining in the moment contextually and bringing forth the values that you actually want to value in this moment.
Mm.
It's not unlike the Taoist ideas of yin and yang. It's not about being masculine or feminine. It's having all of those qualities available to you and deciding what person you want to manifest in that moment, more masculine or more feminine, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we don't need to manifest gratitude all the time. Maybe there's something else that we actually want to
Yeah.
manifest in that
That's a
moment.
really good point. It's more like it's in a book that tells us to be more grateful. But if that's
Exactly.
not what you truly feel on the inside, that again is letting
Or
something from
even
the
or even what
outside.
serves you the best in that moment.
Right, exactly. All right, thank you so much for answering the listener questions, my question, putting together this book, Life Purpose Boot Camp, Eric Mazel, the 8-week breakthrough plan for creating a meaningful life. Thank you so much for being on the program. Folks who want to actually hear us again, hear this program again, you can go to firedupwithcj.com or go to YouTube where this will be posted as a video. And then you can also find us on Facebook. And Eric, tell us what your website and URL is.
It's ericmaisel.com, and that's EricMaisel.com.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.